Member for Menzies.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I asked the Treasurer if he would explain to the House the importance of delivering stable and certain economic management to address the real issue of uncertainties in the global economy. And would the Treasurer also remind the House of why it's not the time for panicking or talking down the Australian economy?
The Treasurer has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Menzies for his question, and know that in his electorate, who the constituency is fighting hard for, there are around 20,000 small businesses that will be able to access the instant asset write-off, and more than 60,000 taxpayers in his electorate who will get a tax cut as a result of legislation that we supported on this side of the House. Mr Speaker, the Australian economy faces some significant global economic headwinds, Mr Speaker. In the last 6 months, the IMF, the OECD, the World Bank have all downgraded their global growth forecasts. In fact, global consumer confidence is now at its lowest level in 4 years. Global business confidence is at its lowest level since 2012. And the IMF have said that if the trade tensions don't abate between China and the United States, then this will send global growth down by around $700 billion by next year, Mr Speaker. So it's more important than ever that we stick to the course. We stay the course, we stick to our plan, we continue to invest in infrastructure and tax cuts and provide the opportunity to create more jobs, Mr Speaker, like our 10-year, $100 billion infrastructure pipeline, with $3.8 billion being brought forward, Mr Speaker, like our more than $300 billion of tax cuts, which will abolish a whole tax bracket, the 37 cents in the dollar tax bracket, and like our announcement yesterday of a $540 million business growth fund which will back small businesses around the country, Mr Speaker. And it's this calm, this disciplined approach to the economy that has seen today mining investment have its biggest jump since 2012, Mr Speaker, and that saw S&P, Standard & Poor's, say just yesterday that the outlook for the Australian economy is sound, Mr Speaker. Now, our steady, methodical, considered approach to the economy is in stark contrast to the panicked approach of those opposite, with their focus on higher taxes and reckless spending, Mr Speaker. Higher taxes and reckless spending, Mr Speaker. And the Labor Party aren't interested in the real issues about the economy because they've got a shadow treasurer who's in witness protection, Mr Speaker. He has averaged about one question a week, Mr Speaker. Even the member for McMahon doubled that average. He had 2 questions a week. Free Jim, Mr Speaker, because the shadow treasurer is averaging about 1 question a week. The Labor Party aren't interested in questions about infrastructure. They're not interested in questions about tax, Mr Speaker. They're not interested in questions about jobs, because the Labor Party can only be relied on for one thing, $387 billion of higher tax.